This is our first ever episode, so if you're watching this way off into the future, then thanks for coming to watch, and hopefully we're still going. So, we're going to do a test with 3 steaks, where one is cooked in the pan, one is cooked sous vide, that's in a water bath to a specific temperature, and the last one will be cooked on the charcoal grill. It's sirloin, one of my 2 favourite cuts, and the reason we're using sirloin is it's not as forgiving as ribeye. I want it less cooked than a ribeye, I want it medium rare. There's less fat in the muscle there, so really if you overcook it, it gets tougher. Ribeye can be more forgiving in that respect. Now, these are beautiful steaks. They're about 5 weeks dry aged, and I get these from a friend of mine, local butcher, Ealing Butchers, and he really knows what he's doing. And here he's got some rare breed Devon beef, also called Red Ruby, and that's because it's got this really striking colour. It's grass-fed, it's very flavourful and tender, but it's not too fatty, so it's slightly healthier, perhaps, than some other types of beef. And this is going to be our house beef. So give it plenty of salt. It's actually quite difficult to over-season it here, so just be generous. Then you're going to have to find a way to vacuum pack or bag it up and get all the air out. Keep it sealed, whatever you do. Get your sous vide ready to 51.5 degrees. This is going for super rare so that we can sear it later to the right temperature. And then cook it in there for about an hour and a half maximum. My neighbours probably think I'm absolutely mad lighting the barbecue in the middle of January, but you know, it's difficult to go from sort of September to May without using it a couple of times anyway. If I wasn't lighting that and I wasn't sous viding, this would be my number 1 choice, and this is a cast iron pan. It's really heavy and it gets really, really hot. You have to heat it up for quite some time. You also have to season it. What that means is you create a sort of layer of natural non-stick by heating vegetable oil to a really high heat for about 45 minutes and then cooling it down. Now, I'm really keen to see if that is as good as the flavour that you're going to get from smoke on the coal and the even higher heat. So if you can't use coal and you haven't got a sous vide, definitely I would recommend using something like this anyway. I'll put a link to this one in the description below. Get your pan incredibly hot, and just before you put the steak in, season it really generously again, as I've mentioned before. Get that steak in the pan. You're going to turn it reasonably frequently, I'd say every 20 to 30 seconds. You don't want to overcook either side. As you can see, I've got a probe in there. Now, the best thing to do is look up the cooking temperature for what you want. If you want it medium or medium rare, that's up to you, but keep an eye on that temperature. The coal barbecue, it's actually my favourite way to cook, and the egg ones like these are actually really versatile. Just make sure you don't get your barbecue flaming up so high that it burns a steak before you can cook it. And if you have a lid like this, you can close it and it will sort of roast the steak at the same time as char grilling it, and it will infuse more of that smoky coal flavour in there. Absolutely delicious. Right, here's a couple of things that you should know before you cook any steak, and wrong time and time again, but really it's really simple to at least get 80% of the way to a fantastic restaurant style steak. And those things are to bring your steak to room temperature. This is an absolute must. Bring it out of the fridge at least, I would say, an hour before. It will be easier to cook to the right temperature. And if you like your steak rarer in the first place, it's definitely the way to go. Secondly is you probably won't guess how much salt they put on the outside of a steak. It's a lot. And the better the salt, the better the taste of the steak will be, because that's the main flavour you're going to get. So be liberal and use the best sea salt you can find. Here in the UK, Malden is the best that I know of. And last thing is that you don't cook a steak long and slow, you cook it fast and at high temperature. So you want your pan to be producing a tiny bit of sort of smoke from the heat of it before you even let your steak touch that. And don't put any cooking oil in the pan. If you want to use any sort of oil, rub the outside of your steak with it, and that way you'll avoid setting yourself on fire, basically. But if you follow those tips and nothing else, you'll already be making better steak than you might have been before. Hi guys, so the steaks are all cooked up and I'm just waiting for them to rest. Everyone else will be coming to the table in a minute. They're not going to know what type of steak or how they're being cooked, and we're just going to do a blind test, A, B and C, which A will be the one from the pan, B will be from the sous vide, and C will be all cooked on the charcoal grill. And it'll be really interesting to find out what everyone prefers. I'm hoping to cook them medium rare. Doesn't always turn out like that. So if it's rare, that won't be terrible. If it's medium, that won't be terrible. So let's aim for that medium rare. And when it comes to resting, I'm going to give a good 7 or 8 minutes. And hopefully that will help to get that colour all the way across. So see you back in a second. Hi guys, finally the cooking is done and it smells absolutely amazing in here. The 2 testers have come down. This is Bob and this is Tom. These guys eat plenty of steak, so they'll know what they're talking about. So, we're not going to tell them what we've got here, but remember this was steak A, steak B and steak C. So, the boys don't know what cut of beef it is, I don't know if they can guess. Either of you? It's close. Sirloin. I've got to be honest, you're not, because normally there's a much bigger bit of fat here, but these ones are quite lean. So let's slice this open. Alright guys, who wants to take first?
Tom? Yeah.
You see behind me, Tom? Okay, right, go for steak A. Now I want you to tell me which one is the most tender and which one is the most flavoursome. Go on Bob, go ahead. It's really tasty. There's a little bit of chewiness in there. Yeah. Okay, that's the one that looks most cooked, but still medium. Alright, let's go for steak B. Hoping for good things here. That one's a bit juicier than the other one. I mean, it's sirloin, it's not ribeye, so it's not going to melt in your mouth, but it's actually got a really nice bite to it. What do you think so far, boys?
He has more flavour and it's a bit more tender.
A bit more tender, okay. Let's try the last one. What do you think, Bob, so far?
I'd say A has more flavour.
Oh! That's really good.
C is definitely most tender.
Oh, it's really juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, these two are cooked exactly the same way. You can see that? So can you make any guess as to why there's a difference?
The way they've been cooked.
Yeah, it's the way they're being cooked. It's clever over here. So can you guess what would make this one? Go on.
One's been barbecued.
So it's a trick question, really, isn't it? Both of these have been barbecued. One of them has had something else done to it. Let's cut a bit more. Really hungry. And let's see if we can find any difference. It's hard to say. Definitely A is not the best one.
No.
So that one was cooked in the pan. It tasted good. It was just less juicy, wasn't it?
Yep.
I think maybe it dries out a bit more in the pan. Right. One last taste of this one. My vote goes for C.
Yeah, same here.
Just on that.
Well, the test was what would be better from pan fried, sous vide and then on the coal, and just on the coal as quick as we could, bearing in mind that it's about 6 degrees outside in the winter in London, which isn't the optimum time really to be barbecuing. But if you're going to cook your sirloin in the winter, I recommend get your anorak on and go outside because that is really tasty. Alright guys, we'll see you on the next one. Cheers!